Welcome to Overtime with Taylor, Tanner, and today we've got a very special guest with us. David Newlin runs an Instagram page, Newlin Scouting. And how you doing, David?
I'm doing pretty good. How about yourself, Taylor?
I'm doing all right. It's a great day to be an NFL football fan. We got a bunch of games that went down. Let's go ahead and review some of these games, why don't we? The Colts at the Packers, and Anthony Richardson just wasn't good, man.
Yeah, at a certain point, it's to be expected, right? It's like his 8th start or so. Coming out of Florida, he played 1 year, so he's not a very experienced quarterback. And, last week we saw the high end with the crazy throw to Alec Pierce and the big plays he made. This week we saw the low end. He's going to be one of those players that's up and down week to week. And hopefully, he figures it out as the year goes on and this Colts offense can start to be a little more efficient because the Packers, they shut them down pretty much.
Yeah, and that Packers defense was pretty good. I mean, to be fair, we were playing a young quarterback. He wasn't anything, a veteran, who could pick apart the defense. But that Colts defense, man, they need some help, don't they?
Yeah. Yeah, they weren't looking very good against the run, which is pretty surprising. I thought they had a good defense, since their GM took over like 5 or 6 years ago. Ballard, they've been pretty good against the run. They kind of have this approach, homegrown talent, but it just didn't work. A couple days ago, against the Packers, were able to move all over them. Malik Willis, I don't know if you want to talk about him. He was looking pretty decent. What do you think about Malik?
Oh yeah, he was looking pretty good. Tennessee, he didn't really do anything special. Will Levis came in, kind of took that job from Malik. And Malik with the Packers, he was 12 of 14, 122 yards and a touchdown. So hey, we'll take it.
Yeah, they didn't really ask him to do much because, they got out early. They were up 10-0 pretty early, and then they just kind of did their game plan. But, he was perfect for what they asked him to do. Coming out, I wouldn't call him a game manager type, but he executed the game plan perfectly against the Colts, ran the ball, threw the ball efficiently, didn't really make any mistakes. And if they can play like that for the next couple of games, then I don't see why they can't, be 3-1 by the time Jordan Love comes back.
Yeah, and I mean, the Packers ran the ball 53 times. That's the most they've ran the ball since 1978. It's just a testament of what the Packers can do when they have a good running back. And Josh Jacobs might be the future for Green Bay in the running back position.
And yeah, he's been good. He was really good for the Raiders a couple years ago, and then last year it was a little more inconsistent, but that wasn't on Jacobs. But, Packers, they have a good offensive line, good play calling. I don't see why he can't have, a great year and finish as one of the best running backs in the NFL this year.
Yeah, and hey, rumors are saying that Jordan Love might be ready to play next week against the Titans, but we'll see. He was limited at practice, so he could be a go. It would be crazy to see Jordan Love healthy again, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't want to force it just because, it's a long season. Packers have, playoff aspirations. I wouldn't want to rush Love back and have him get hurt even more. So I'd probably run the Willis train until he's fully healthy. I mean, even if you're 1-2, 1-3, that's not the worst thing in the world. I'd rather have a healthy Jordan Love for the next 14 games than have a semi-healthy Love that maybe gets hurt again.
Right. I mean, it's easy to say, hey, Malik Willis, let's just ride it out until Malik really shows us that maybe he shouldn't be the backup. He looked good the first game, so if we can keep dominating the game plan, we're playing Tennessee. Tennessee's not a crazy team to go against, like we can run the ball 40 times against Tennessee.
Tennessee has a good defense, but, Will Levis, man, you never know what he's going to do. So I think if you want to, I think you can kind of make them pass the ball because Will Levis, mistake prone, as we've seen.
He isn't the most efficient quarterback, let's just say that, but he has a bright future if he can really reach into that potential he has. But we'll see. That's going to be a fun game to watch. I'm going to have my eyes on it just because I am a Packers fan. All right, next game. Let's talk about the Falcons and the Eagles, man. Big Kirko, he stays dripping, don't he?
He moved to Atlanta. It's got to represent. But, they kind of were struggling the first week. Kirk's in a new offense. They really weren't looking very good against the Steelers. Now, how much of that is, Steelers have a great defense? How much of that is Kirk's, getting used to this new offense? He was in Green Bay for a while, and he ran a similar offense in Washington. So he's got a lot to learn when it comes to this new offense. But, first half looked like more of the same. The offense wasn't too good, not really being too efficient. I think Darnell Mooney had a pretty bad drop. But the second half, Kirk was on fire. I think he only missed a few throws. they came back and won that game late when it looked like the Eagles were going to win because they had the ball 2 minutes left, and they were able to march down the field and score a touchdown and win that game.
Yeah, Atlanta was down with 139 left in the fourth quarter, and Kirk Cousins just engineered a 70-yard touchdown drive, and it just seemed this is how the offense is going to look once everyone really merges together because, man, that drive was awesome. Everybody seemed in sync. The receivers ran right routes. Kirk Cousins knew where to throw that ball, and, man, if this offense can click like that, it's going to be a dangerous, dangerous game.
Yeah, I hope to see them continue to grow. I like Kirk. I like Drake London. I hope to see this offense kind of get in their groove. But man, Kyle Pitts, they could just not get him involved. I don't know what happened, man. He had a good rookie year, but ever since then, it's just he's not really a factor when he's on the field. So I don't know what's going on there.
Yeah, I mean, Kyle Pitts, I was super high on him coming out of Florida, but in the NFL, he just really hasn't reached that potential. He still has a lot to grow. He's still a very raw talent, but he's so athletic, man. You've got to get him involved.
Yeah, I hope they can kind of figure something out because I think he only has a few catches. He's not really just disruptive these first 2 weeks. He hasn't been the guy. They've been turning Darnell Mooney and Drake London. Those are good players, but I'd love to see Kyle Pitts involved, and I was super high on him too. So it sucks to see his career kind of, dwindle as time goes on.
Yeah, but hey, man, let's talk about another player who came out of the SEC, starting quarterback for the Eagles, Jalen Hurts, man, and he threw an interception late to really just seal the game, man, for Atlanta. And what's Hurts' deal?
Well, he was never a very good passer in college, in the NFL. The thing about Jalen Hurts is as long as they have him, they will have a high floor as an offense because the rushing ability, he's dangerous with his legs. But I do think as a starting quarterback, he is going to limit your passing game because he's not great at reading the offense. He's not too accurate. He forces decisions. He's just not a very good passer of the football, which is going to limit how good the offense can be. But, they'll always be decent because, his rushing ability and the talent they have. It just kind of sucks. He's been a quarterback for a couple of years now. You think you'd want him to take that next step into the upper echelon, but I don't know if that's ever going to happen.
I mean, you really don't have to ask him to pass much when you have Saquon Barkley in that backfield, and he's back to pretty much his prime when he was with the Giants. Like, this guy looks explosive. He can move on a dime. It's just amazing to see Saquon back. I think the NFL is better when Saquon is healthy.
Yeah, he hasn't been as maybe as shifty as he used to be, not breaking as many tackles, but I mean he's still really good, still a really good talent. So yeah, like I said, Jalen Hurts, Saquon, I think the Eagles will have a good offense just because of that, but I'd like to see Jalen be a little more efficient.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Eagles, they're really just Jalen Hurts is really holding them back. It's crazy to say they've had success in the season, but if Hurts can get more accurate, especially with those receivers he has and Dallas Goedert at tight end, if he can hit those players, then the Eagles could be really, really dangerous.
I mean, yeah, they were just in the Super Bowl a couple years ago for that very reason. So they're always going to be one of those teams that could make a deep playoff run at any point because of the talent they have. It's a lot is on the passing game and Jalen Hurts and I think the defense needs to start playing better too. They have a lot of talent and I don't think they're playing as well as they could be.
Yeah, for sure. And man, offenses in the NFL this season from 2019 to 2022, through the first 2 weeks of the season, there were a total of 110 passing touchdowns. This year, only 69 passing touchdowns.
Yeah, I know. It's it's been a slow start. I remember that first weekend. I was watching a few of the games and then looking at the stats of the other games, and I'm like, what's going on, man? Why are these teams not having any efficiency? Like Joe Burrow and the Bengals struggled. A lot of these offenses with good quarterbacks throwing for 150 yards per game on 30 attempts. It's been odd, and it was a little bit better this past weekend, but still again more of the same. A lot of these offenses are really struggling to put up efficient numbers, put up big passing games. Besides the Saints.
Yeah, besides the Saints. We'll touch on the Saints a little bit later, but man, are defenses just getting better or QBs getting worse?
I think it's more on defenses getting better. There's been a trend in the past few years to switch to a cover 2 shell, cover 2, cover 4, cover 3. These schemes that, will allow the offenses to take the short stuff because, they'd rather give up that than give up a 60-yard touchdown because they'd rather have an offense march a 10-play drive because it's hard to be perfect for 10 plays. And that's been coming through these defenses. They've been tackling well. They've been good in zone. And, I think the offenses have struggled to, make big plays happen. And not for lack of trying. I mean, they've been throwing a lot. It's not like teams aren't throwing as much. They've been throwing a lot. They're just not really getting those big plays that they were in previous years. And I think it is because like defenses might be playing a little bit better this year, especially with tackling and stuff like that.
Yeah, you're right. Defenses are definitely getting better, but also the quarterback play. In my opinion, the quarterback play has just gone a little bit downhill. Tom Brady's mentioned it. He said these quarterbacks just aren't as elite as they once were. And man, the best of the best is what Patrick Mahomes probably is what the best is. But leading the MVP race right now is Sam Darnold.
Sam Darnold, Baker Mayfield, and Derek Carr. Imagine telling someone that like 5 years ago.
Yeah, the NFL is ruined. All right, let's talk about Derek Carr. The New Orleans Saints, man, their offense is just on fire. Are they going to slow down soon, or are they just going to keep on being on fire?
I mean, they're bound to slow down. So at this point, they're scoring, 45 points a game. NFL has never seen anything like that. And, first week they went against the Panthers. So, that's not really saying much. And the second week, the Saints didn't game plan very well. So they're going to slow down. But even if they're half as efficient as they are right now, they're going to be one of the team's best offenses. So small sample size, it's hard to say, but they've looked really good on offense and defense. So I don't see why they can't be, a Super Bowl contender if Derek Carr continues to play the way he has. But, we have to see more because it's been a very small sample size, 2 weeks. But the efficiency they've been really just can't continue because, well, I guess if it did, it'd be record-breaking stuff. But the odds of that happening are pretty low because they've been firing on all cylinders.
Yeah, you're right. They've been firing at all cylinders. And in my opinion, I think they're showing too much early. A lot of these teams, they don't really dive into what their big plays are until later in the season when they really have to pull them out. So maybe the Saints and Dennis Allen, maybe they've just been showing things too early, and then defenses are going to figure out this Saints offense.
I mean, some of it's just been simple stuff like Alvin Kamara, 50-yard screen pass. Rashid, what's his name?
Rashid
Shaheed, right?
Yeah.
Right. He's cooking on poster outs and stuff like that. So it's not like they're pulling out these crazy trick plays. They're just being efficient and operating at a high level.
Yeah, they're just executing very well. 91 points in the first 2 weeks. Last time they put up 90-plus points in the first 2 weeks was when they won the Super Bowl. So maybe we could see the same thing.
Saints fans will want to see that keep up then. The offensive line's been really good too. I thought that might have been a place, where they were going to struggle, but they've been blocking pretty well. Cesar Ruiz, Lucas Patrick's been great. A lot of this line has been way better than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, and this offensive line isn't made up of any big superstars. It's just made up of a bunch of guys who just, are good role, like offensive line players. They're not going to blow you away with their blocks, but they're just going to do their job, execute to perfection.
And that's really all you need out of offense. You don't need people blowing people up. You just need your offense your offensive line just can't get in the way. And it's been helping them, operate and fulfill their offensive scheme. So they've been playing very good. I've been impressed with the Saints so far.
Yeah, Kamara's back too, man. I was kind of down on Kamara the past couple of years, man, but he's looked like he's back to where he once was in his prime.
Yeah, looking a little more shifty. I like it. Saints are looking good.
Yeah, and you mentioned Rashid Shaheed. He is a absolute just big play monster. Out of 11 career touchdowns, these are his 11 career touchdowns. A 44-yard run, 53-yard catch, 76-yard punt return, 68-yard catch, 19-yard catch, 34-yard catch, 58-yard catch, 45 yards, 39 yards, 59 yards, and 70 yards. So this guy can just make big plays after big plays.
Yeah, he's been killing them for real. So he's kind of that guy. He's not someone you're going to target 10 times a game, but hell, if Carr likes the matchup, let it fly. I know you wanted to talk about MVP stuff, so I think is a good transition. But Derek Carr has been playing great. We've seen this before from Carr. It's been a long time. But remember, 2016, he was an MVP frontrunner for most of the season until he broke his leg. And then after that, he was a little more passive, taking dunk downs, not really pushing the ball downfield. But Derek Carr is at his best when he's aggressive. We've seen it so far this year. We've seen it in the past during, like I said, 2016 and during spurts with the Saints last year. But when he's aggressive playing, like he wants to win, throwing the ball deep. He's a great quarterback. We just haven't seen that consistently. So if he keeps that up, I think he is probably in the lead for the MVP race right now, MVP race. So I don't see why he can't win it if he keeps this up. He just needs to continue to be aggressive like he has been, and the Saints offense is going to be hard to beat.
You're right. And I mean, the Saints, Rashid Shaheed's been the guy who everyone's talking about, but they still have Chris Olave, who's a pretty heck of a receiver.
Olave, Foster Moreau is a good tight end. They have, good running backs. They have a good offense all around, and rely on Olave, rely on Shaheed, some dunk downs every now and then. But this is going to be a potent offense if they continue to be aggressive.
Oh, for sure. And let's talk about that MVP race. Baker Mayfield, Sam Darnold are the two other quarterbacks in consideration, as well as Derek Carr, man, and they all have pretty similar stat lines.
Yeah, I guess we should touch on Baker first because he's been good for the past 10 games for the Buccaneers. They started off slow, but they made that playoff push near the end. And he looked good, starting to build some chemistry with Chris Godwin. I mean, there was a point where I think like 8 of his first throws all went to Chris Godwin, and he had like 100 yards in the first half. But, Mike Evans is there. They have good talent there as well. It's just we need to continue to see Baker do this as well. I mean, we've seen this at spurts. His rookie year was really good, and then he kind of fell off. And then 2020 with Cleveland was good when they made the playoffs. And then again, he fell off the next year, and he struggled in Carolina. But he's been good with Tampa Bay since he got there, especially the last 10 games or so. So if he continues the pace he's on, he's someone else who could, push for an MVP race. Is the only thing holding them back right now is the offensive line because he got sacked like 6 or 7 times. So you want to see that get better. You want to see them be able to support him, protect him. But yeah, Baker's playing dangerous right now. It's looking good.
Yeah, he sure is. Baker's been really, really good. And Sam Darnold's a guy who just kind of came out of nowhere with Minnesota. Everyone's really talking about J.J. McCarthy, J.J. McCarthy, J.J. McCarthy. No one really mentioned Sam Darnold in the offseason. He came out, and he just really looked really good. He's making good throws, and he's not just throwing short passes. He's letting it air out, too.
Yeah. Sam's the guy who I am most hesitant on. I need to see more before I think he's the real deal. And that's because we have seen, Sam Darnold has had 3-game stretches where he looks great and then it falls off and he's not looking good. Happened his rookie year, happened the year after that. He's had these stretches where he looks good for 3 or 4 games. So I want to see him continue this pace. If he plays like this all year, yeah, he's like back. He'll be the next Geno Smith. It's just he's put on of Baker and Carr, he's put up the most bad tape. He was awful in New York. Now, some of that wasn't his fault, obviously. But he spent last year with the 49ers. He's with the Vikings now. Good offense, good supporting cast. But I just want to see some more from him before I'm ready to, commit to him being a good quarterback. But I can't deny he's looked great so far to start the year.
Yeah, he has looked really good. And we already talked about Derek Carr. But my question is, these 3 quarterbacks, if you told someone 5 years ago that these are going to be 3 MVP frontrunners, they would laugh at your face and call you a crazy man, right? But could we see a defensive MVP winner? Aiden Hutchinson's already got 5.5 sacks through 2 weeks of play.
Yeah, I know. He's been killing it. If half sacks weren't a thing, he'd have 7, I think. But he's been crazy, getting pressure. I think he's like a 94 PFF grade. He's been killing. Now, to be fair, I think he's gone against backup offensive tackles for the last 2 weeks. The Lions, the Rams were struggling to protect off, and same thing with the Buccaneers last week. I mean, if he continues this pace, he'll have, 30 sacks? But
yeah, he'll break the record of 22.5 that T.J. Watt just hit a couple years ago.
But yeah, he's been looking great. Shout out Hutch. He's a great player. I can't believe the Jags drafted Trayvon Walker over him. But he's been great for the Lions. He's gotten better every year since he's got here. I think he could be, maybe not an MVP case. It's going to be hard, but I think he's leading for Defensive Player of the Year so far.
Oh, for sure. He could definitely win Defensive Player of the Year. But hey, he could sneak into that MVP talk if these quarterbacks don't keep rolling, and if some of the top dogs like Mahomes and Josh Allen really don't hit the peak that should hit.
Now that'd be fun. I'd love to see a defensive MVP. Has that ever happened?
I don't know. I have to look that up. I'm sure our audience can tell us later. But let's talk about Carolina, man. Bryce Young got benched. What's going on here?
It's a long, long story. It's been going. This has been a thing since whenever Tipper took over the team. I think it was before the 2019 season. They went out, they signed Teddy Bridgewater to a big contract. That was always going to be a bad decision. The state that, they just got rid of Cam, which fair enough. Cam was having injury issues and he wasn't playing at his best. So that's fine. But they decided to take a mediocre roster and add a mediocre quarterback to it. And you saw the results. They weren't very good.
Hey, I
So
don't think Bryce Young is mediocre. I think he's a really good quarterback. If you look at his college tape, I mean, to be
no,
fair,
I mean Teddy.
okay, Teddy. I thought you were talking about Bryce Young. I was about to be like, hold your horses.
Now we can fast forward to Bryce Young. They didn't have a good roster. Now we see this thing with NFL players where you take a quarterback and you put them on a horrible roster where they're getting hit, they have no wide receivers, and it can ruin their career. Saw it with David Carr. I mean, it looked like it was happening to Sam Darnold. We'll see what he is like now. Um, but last year they had horrible pass blocking. Adam Thielen as your number one wide receiver just can't happen. At this point in his career, he's best served as like a number three. He does not separating. But, you know, they got Deontay Johnson. They improved the offensive line. So I was hoping maybe that we would see something with Bryce Young this year. But as everyone's seen, not been the case. He's been the worst quarterback in the NFL so far this year, and he doesn't look like he can handle it. Now, whether that's because he could never handle it and he was overhyped coming out of the NFL, or excuse me, coming out of college, which I don't think is the case, or whether he's just been, destroyed by his first year. I think that's more likely. But what do you think about him being benched?
I don't think it's a good idea. I mean, Panthers basically just throwing in the towel. Like Andy Dalton is nothing. He's what 37 years old. Like he's not going to do anything to that Bryce Young couldn't have done. Like Panthers are still going to go 0-17 this year.
Yeah, they might, man. I don't know about your take, but I was a Browns fan back in the day when they went 1-31. I legitimately think this Panthers team in this last season and this season are worse than that team ever was. They're truly awful. I think they're the worst team I've ever seen, genuinely.
Yeah, I mean, pretty terrible. They got to fix things in the ownership category, maybe even in the coaching category. Just the whole Carolina Panthers, they just need to take a step back and just look in the mirror and reevaluate who they are.
That's why I don't really mind the Bryce Young benching. It's obviously something's got to change, right? So I don't mind letting Andy Dalton step in, see what the floor of this offense is. See, is it really all on Bryce Young, or is this offense just god awful? Because truly and honestly, at this point, the odds of Bryce Young becoming a franchise quarterback are extremely low. You don't see quarterbacks struggle this much out the gate and then suddenly turn it around. It's not very common. So I don't mind setting it back, seeing what you can salvage of this situation, and trying to see what you have. Benching Bryce, bring in Andy. If Andy makes the offense look good, then yeah, maybe Bryce Young shouldn't be a starter right now. If Andy also struggles, then yeah, throw Bryce Young out. Let this offense try to figure it out. The issue they have right now is, again, the wide receivers are a similar issue. Adam Thielen, same thing. He's just 1 year older. Deontay Johnson looks like he's already given up on the team. Uh, the rookie they got out of South Carolina, Leggett, he's a rookie. He was raw coming out. He's not making much of an impact. And Jatavion Sanders, the tight end they drafted, isn't looking good. They don't have any talent. Now, the pass blocking is better than it was last year. They've been a really good pass blocking team so far, but the run blocking isn't matching that. They've been struggling to run the ball. Wide receivers aren't looking good. So at some point, like really, what can Bryce Young do? He's getting better protection, but the wide receivers aren't playing well. The run game isn't good. And this defense is atrocious. They are getting burned, getting gashed left and right. Can't stop the run. The defensive line's been playing horrible. They can't rush the passer. Linebackers have been playing bad. Safeties, corners have been playing bad. When you're losing immediately, like against the Saints, they were down 30-0 at halftime, 30-3 at halftime. That's pushing a lot on Bryce Young to try like, hey, go win this game when he's already been struggling. I just don't really know what they do from here. I've been thinking that they should maybe kind of, after the season, if Bryce Young is just bad, I think it's time to blow it up, sell assets. Teams don't want to stay it, but I think they should probably tank, because do what the Browns did back in the day, trade back, build up assets. And then eventually, they got Myles Garrett, David Njoku, Baker Mayfield, Denzel Ward, Nick Chubb, all within 2 drafts. So I think that should be the strategy, is to kind of sell assets, build up capital, and then make a play for the future. Because the state they're in right now, I don't think is salvageable.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that. And maybe it's time for Bryce Young to get traded. Maybe if he just doesn't do good, maybe it's time to get traded. Maybe it might be the best thing for him. Because if you look, let's flip the subject a little bit to Justin Fields. He got traded to the Steelers. And hey, Justin Fields could be the Steelers quarterback for the upcoming future.
Yeah, I mean, he's looked good. He's been managing the game. Defense has been great, so they haven't really relied on him to go win them a game. They scored 15 points against the Falcons. They scored 14 or 17 this past week, something like that. So the offense hasn't been great, but they asked him to take the easy throws, run a little bit. He's been doing great. Really, honestly, he's been great as a game manager. If they needed to rely on him to go out and win the game, we'll see how that works. But right now, he's been doing good.
Yeah, he's been doing pretty good. And Caleb Williams with the Bears now, he hasn't looked that great. Would you say that Justin Fields right now is better than Caleb Williams?
Well, right now, yes. It's only been 2 games. Caleb is a rookie. Justin Fields is in year 4 or 5. So right now, yes, Justin Fields is a better quarterback. Do I think he'll be a better quarterback in the long run? And I still take Caleb. The issue with Caleb is not that he can't play. It's just he's trying to do too much. It's holding on the ball too long. I know the pressure rate has been insane, but a lot of that is just him, much like with Justin Fields when he was in Chicago. It's holding on the ball for way too long, trying to make something happen. Making these stupid throws. Sometimes you got to take what's there. He played great to start off the game against the Texans, but as the Texans started to pull away, he started forcing it, holding the ball too long. So he just needs to relax, not try to be Superman. Just operate the offense. You're not going to win a lot of games. You had the first overall pick for a reason. Well, I guess they traded for that, but they're not going to be good. So let's just run the offense and grow. He doesn't need to go out there and win every single game. And I feel like that's kind of what it is right now.
He's just been trying to do too much, as you said, just run the ball, I mean, that's all you really have to do. And man, let's talk about the Thursday night football game tonight, man. Jets and Patriots. It's going to be a good one.
Yeah, I mean, Patriots in the Gerard Mayo era has been looking good. Jacoby Brissett's looked good. Game manager. I think he's probably around a top 25 quarterback, top 20. These teams don't want to invest in him because he's not ever going to be a great quarterback. But he's a solid starter. If he wanted to execute a game plan, he can. He's just never going to be great. So this team, they run the ball a lot. Ramondre Stevenson's been awesome. The defense has been great. And then, the Jets, they haven't looked great, but they have the talent. A-Rod, is he still the same guy? Maybe, maybe not. They got Garrett Wilson. Braylon Allen looks great. Breece Hall. Defense has a lot of talent. They've been, inconsistent. It's just, they haven't really seen this Jets team gel together yet. So maybe we'll start to see that as it goes on. But the Patriots could easily win this game if they want to run all over, the Jets.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting game, to say the least. All right, we're out of time here, and thank you, David, for joining us on this episode. We'll bring you along for future episodes. This was a great episode.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, you've been listening to Overtime to Taylor Tanner. Make sure to follow me on socials at OT with TT and at _TaylorNader_. And David, you got any socials you want to shout out?
I guess go follow Newlin Scouting, Newlin Music Review, if you want to.
There you go. This guy knows all about music. I mean, big Playboy Cardi guy, but
You don't kind of talk about that.
Well, thank you guys for listening. This has been Overtime with Taylor Tanner.